Good evening, ladies and gents, and welcome to another Live in Leash podcast. You're very, very, very welcome this evening. And we've a full house, such a full house, we've had to build a Zoom extension. Yes. We've been working hard on it. And fingers crossed everything goes well tonight, because I'm baptizing our newest webcam here. And it's doing different things that I'm not used to. I'd like to introduce our regular co-host, Hannah Cahill. Hi, Hannah.
Hi, John. How are you?
Great. Trudy Carmody.
Hi, John. How are you?
Good. Evan Tracy can't make it. His broadband is just gone. Again, Government of Ireland sorted out. It's 2021, not 1921. Now we have a packed audience, a packed panel tonight. We'll start with David Delaney from beyourbestyou.ie. Hello, David.
Hi, John. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Very welcome. Paula Byrne from Apple Blossom Holistic.
Hi, John. Lovely to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Paula. How are you? Brendan McDonald.
Hi. How are you? Nice
Farmer
to meet you all.
and author. Is that a good description?
Ex-farmer, when I suppose solicitor, and now business development person. But we'll get into all that after.
Get into all that, because the brother is farming.
That's
Paul is
right.
farming.
Yeah.
We'll get to him as well. We're delighted to have the Reverend Alec Purser in the house.
Hello, John. Thank you for having me.
Oh, pleasure. We have your right-hand man, Reverend Shane Reynolds.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Thanks.
Very good. Great to have you in.
Thanks very much for having.
Have I left anyone out? No. That's good. Because it's a long
I think we're all covered.
What's that?
I said I think we're all covered anyway.
All covered. That's brilliant. And we'll start tonight. We'll actually start with the elephant. We'll start with the elephant in the room, or in this case, the elephant on the farm. Brendan, the spotlight is shining on you. Explain more.
This is the book. Elephant on the Farm launched on the 12th of December, just with a soft launch, just one tweet and one Facebook post. And since then, in a pandemic, we've sold just over 600 copies with bookshops closed. So I think it's going quite well. So the story is about Edward the elephant, who befriends Olive the owl in a barn. He doesn't know how he got there, and basically Olive coaxes him out to the farm to meet the other farm animals. And when he gets out to the farm, he thinks he's still at the zoo, so he mixes up some of the farm animals with some of the zoo animals. So he mixes up Larry the llama with a giraffe, and he mixes up a cow with a zebra and things like that. And then there's a bit of drama. There's a bit of a fire. He has to use his trunk and suck up some water from the pond and put out the fire, and they all live happily ever after, basically. So it's a children's picture book for, I suppose, 0 to 6 year olds. And it's been going down quite well.
And what Brendan gave you the inspiration for the book?
Well, initially it was actually, we were on holidays up in Meath. Our university gang meet up every 6 or 9 months, or well, we did before the pandemic. And we met up, and we're all got to the stage now where there's lots of little people on board as well. And a couple of little girls asked me, would I tell them a story? And one of my mates was like, well, you're from a farm, you should be surely able to tell a story. So just making up a random story about walking around the farm. And then I just said, and there was an elephant on the farm. It just randomly came to me. And their shock at an elephant being on the farm and thinking that this was so out of character and so out of place just kind of resonated with me. So I ended up doing a creative writing course with Curtis Brown Creative in London a couple of years ago, and then kind of left it until lockdown last year and reignited it. And it's one of these things that I always said I'd do, but never got around to doing it. So like us all, last year we had lots more time on our hands. I would have been very much out and about. I wouldn't have been in the house much at all, and ended up being here, like us all, full time. So I just put pen to paper and started on the writing journey, and thinking it was going to be easy and that it'd take about 10 minutes to write a story. But alas, no, it takes a lot longer than that. And many edits and many drafts later, and lots of help from my sisters-in-law, my friends, and various different people who read stories to kids. So it was very interesting journey.
Very interesting journey. But the second book will be easier, Brendan. Not putting any pressure on you.
The second book will be, I suppose it will be, in that I now know how to self-publish, how to maybe get around doing a bit of media. And I suppose in my job, I do a little bit of media in the Southeast with the IDA. So I'm kind of used to that. And, even drafting a press release would be used to doing that kind of thing. And, but building a website was obviously new to me. Getting a book printed, even little things like you can probably see here, there's a spine on the book. So on the spine, we have different things. So little things like even the barcode. So as you can see from the barcode, my illustrator actually put an elephant and a tractor on the barcode, which is pretty cool. And then I partnered with Crumlin's Children's Hospital as well. And we're doing 20% of the proceeds to Crumlin because my little nephew, Tommy, who the book is dedicated to, was in Crumlin for a little while, for about a week, about 2 years ago. And the wonderful people over there, up there, fixed him, as we say. And I've two sister-in-laws, one who is a midwife in Portlaoise, and the other one is Yolanda. So Mary Emily is a midwife, and Yolanda is a paediatric nurse in Portlaoise Hospital as well. So it just seemed like the right thing to do, to dedicate some of the proceeds to Crumlin as well.
Marvelous. And before I let Hannah and Trudy ask you loads of questions, have we any other authors in the room? No, not yet. Not yet,
guys. We're all up and coming soon. Yeah.
Yeah. Any questions for Brendan?
Yeah, actually. So, Brendan, you mentioned illustrations and the barcode of your book. I was just wondering, how did you source an illustrator for this book? What made you choose your illustrator?
Yeah, so that was a very, very interesting process as well, because I joined some online forums, and, a lot of the online forums are US based. So people are asking questions like, oh, how much is it for an illustration? How much is it for X, Y, and Z? And, a lot of people were saying, oh, you can pay between $10 and $15 for an illustration. I was thinking, gosh, that seems very low for somebody who is a qualified illustrator to, serve their time and then obviously come out to pay $15 for one page when there's 24 pages odd in a book. So I did some more research and came across Illustrators Ireland, and I approached some illustrators on that. And I think some of them thought I was a little bit mad because I was going down the self-publishing route and I was a first-time author. And why was I on this forum looking for professional illustrators? But I suppose anything that we do, I know in work, we do everything to the, professional, very professionally and very, I suppose, top class, or we like to think we do anyway. So I wanted to kind of translate that into the book as well and make sure I could do everything as well as I possibly could. And for that, I suppose I had to pay. You have to pay for a service. So I eventually came across a gentleman who had actually illustrated another. I found a lady online. He'd illustrated her books, and I just asked for a reference, and she put me in contact, which was great. And that guy turned out to be Martin Beckett, who is based in Donegal. So it was obviously great that he was based in Donegal as well. And then he was able to help me with the layout and the book design as well, which is fantastic because a lot of illustrators wouldn't have that in their wheelhouse. And then he was able to just literally send the manuscript off to the printers who I sourced in Ireland as well. I wanted them to be local and Irish. So everything about the book is Irish as well. And obviously in the times we're living in, the big push to shop local, shop Irish, and support each other, I suppose, in these crazy times, all kind of fell into one.
That's fantastic. And, it's been, as you said, it was a tough process. It was a long process. But would you ever see yourself as branching out from, say, children's writing to, say, adult books, like to adult fiction?
Ultimately, yes, but maybe not at this point in time, because I've a second book in development with a different artist actually, and the third book, which will be the second in this series, I'm writing that at the moment as well. So that's called Giraffe in the Trees, and that's going to be set in Glendalough. So it's going to be about a giraffe who kind of disappears in and around the trees and up around the tower and into the lake and different things. So that's that one. And then the other one then that's with the other artist is called The Sheep Who Couldn't Sleep. And it's about a sheep going to bed. And obviously that resonates with kids because obviously bedtime is such a hard time in many houses. And the sheep is going to lose her teddy bear and then go on a journey to try and find the teddy bear. And then at the end, find the teddy bear and go to sleep.
That's fantastic. Can I just ask where you got the inspiration for that story?
For the sheep who couldn't sleep, definitely my little nephew, because every time I was up there and it was bedtime, there was always a drama with his bunny. He could never find the bunny, to such an extent. I actually Googled one time, I Googled tracking devices, and I was going to buy a tracking device and put it in the bunny, because they just could not find, every single evening they couldn't find the bunny. And they'd be asking the 3-year-old, where's the bunny? And he'd be like, I don't know. And, given this kind of like, I'm 3, I left the bunny somewhere about 2 years ago. Who cares?
It's always
You find
the last
it.
place you'd look as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so that was kind of the inspiration for that one. And so you can find inspiration, I suppose, in any place.
That's
if
fantastic. Just before I pass you over to Trudy, can I just ask, where can we buy Elephant on the Farm?
So in Laois, I suppose I'm a little bit hampered in that lockdown obviously has come back, so I haven't got it out in as many bookshops as I hoped. But Colm in All Books kindly took it in before Christmas, so he has, and obviously support local, support the bookshops locally, and obviously the independent ones if you can as well. The guys in 57 in Durrow have it, and the guys in Anthology in Abbey Leaks, who are now gone back online. Or you can buy it on my own website, bedtimestory.ie.
And we'll put a link in there. Thank you so much, Brendan. I'll pass you
Not at
over
all.
to Trudy for an interrogation.
And I have a list. You started off saying non-fiction. I'd argue. I think each of your stories or you started saying fiction. I'd argue and say it's non-fiction, because I think each of the stories is rooted in a non-fiction subject. And they're educational, because kids 0 to 6, that you're going for, that audience, just love to correct the adult in the room. Because to for God's sake, like, why? How can there be an elephant in the room? Sure, he should be in the zoo. And then they'll try to educate the adult who knows nothing and tell them, well, that couldn't be a zebra, it's a cow, because the stripes are stripy and they're vertical. And so I see it as educational. And even the bedtime story one, okay, it's fictional, but it's also teaching the children. It fits in with another topic we have tonight, obviously, which is teaching them how to relax and deep breathe and get them to sleep and all that kind of stuff. So I really think where the fictional stories, I think there's a message for the parents behind each of them. So fair play for having that meaning behind each of them. And I hope you've got a long list of them to come. From my own point of view, I love the question Hannah was asking you about the illustrator. I would like to ask you about the self-published. Why self-published? Was it because you have full range, you have control? Is it cheaper? Is it more expensive, but the trade-off is you have control? So why did you do that?
I suppose the main reason for self-publishing is the massive fear of rejection, because at a lot of the forums and the different things that I attended, people were saying, they were sending in their manuscripts to, 10, 20, 30 publishers and getting rejection after rejection. I was like, all right, look, not great with rejection at this point in time, so I'll forget about that. But to be honest, and joking aside, I kind of wanted to challenge myself on actually bringing the project from the very start to conclusion. And the idea of having that control definitely was in there. But the trade-off for all that is it's then harder to get it into bookshops, because you don't have a distributor necessarily at the start, and you're a first-time author. And I suppose a lot of bookshops, and that's the reason I suppose that I went with barcode, which is actually called an ISBN number. If you don't have that, it won't scan in the shop, so it won't scan into the systems. So that's one thing people might be aware of. And then the spine is needed, because when you stack the books and you have a number of them, people need to see that what the book is about, the name and the main information on, so they can pull it out. And then obviously the quality piece has to be of a standard, because you would see a lot of self-published books, and I suppose the quality mightn't necessarily be there because they've maybe used a reduced quality of paper, because it is quite expensive. Like, you're talking multiples of thousands of euros to produce the book. And obviously printing it locally then, or instead of using like something like Ingram Spark, or using a third party in the Far East or in Asia, where the quality again could be let down by the time it gets back to you. Yeah, it definitely is an expensive process to do, and I think that's the hampering for a lot of artists when they're pitching, because they maybe don't have the seed money to do it at the start. I'm kind of lucky, I suppose, in a way, that I had saved up some money during lockdown, because I hadn't gone on as many little mini city breaks or different things that I hadn't obviously done. So I had some money put aside to be able to do that. But most people aren't in that lucky position to do that. So I said I'd just take the chance. And some people in my circle said I was a bit mad spending thousands of euros on a book, but it's, I suppose, paid off from the point of view of, having sold now 600 copies in 7 weeks. I suppose that gamble has paid off.
That's phenomenal. And I think you launched it at the best time you possibly could have. It's, a fantastic present for a grandparent to buy a child, or for a sibling to buy a younger child. It's not totally out of their budget. It will fit in an envelope to post it. So it's perfect that way. But now that you've a reputation, you've sold 600 copies, I'm assuming that you now have a database that you have permission now to say, hi everybody, thank you for purchasing my first book. My second book comes out on Monday. Or added to that you've done that, will you still, for book number 2, 3, 4, will you still self-publish, or will you go down the other route?
I think for the next one in this series, I'll definitely self-publish and see how that journey takes me. And then, there is the chance of maybe doing another one after that. I'm toying with the idea of, a herring on a boat or something like that. So we'll see. But as I say, it is quite an expensive process. So, I mean, you're talking, for publishing 3 books, nearly the guts of about 15,000 euros. So it's a lot of money. So you do need to try and get it back. But I suppose I've been lucky in the last couple of weeks, and getting a full page in the Farmers Journal last week was a huge selling point, and that was massive for me. That definitely brought in a lot of sales over the weekend, and just then that's I suppose that's the catapult, that you can send that article to other people. And on the back of that, a number of bookshops, a couple in Kilkenny, actually contacted me to stock the book as well. So one kind of thing is a building block to the next stage. And it's all kind of building blocks, and, chip away at the publicity side of it, and chip away at building your reputation.
Another thing I've just thought of there as you're talking, I'm a tour guide, and a lot of my guests from overseas watch into this podcast, and Ellen Marie watches in every week. So hi, Ellen Marie. I told her I would say hello. But Ellen Marie works with kids on the spectrum and works with kids with additional needs. Now, I touched on, the child arguing that can't be a zebra, the stripes are the wrong way, would fit into a young child on the spectrum. Would you, are you thinking of shipping these overseas? Because I think that would be a perfect audience for young kids on the spectrum. It would explain the different animals in a fun, because they have that kind of a dry, black and white, right and wrong sense of humor, and they really would get fun out of, oh, you silly fool, that can't be a zebra, or why is a giraffe in a tray? So that's totally wrong, because everything has to be as it should be. And they could relate to the sleeping thing and all of that. But first one is, well, obviously schools, units, things like that, kids with needs. And will you ship overseas?
Yeah, no, and actually, just before I came up, I checked the order book or the orders online, and there's an order in from Illinois in the US. So I've shipped to California, New York, Boston, Sydney, New Zealand, where else? And the UK, Germany, France. So I've got lucky to have quite a good network as well with people around the world. So I've shipped it's no problem shipping anywhere in the world. And just to your point about, kids with additional needs, I actually got a lovely message yesterday from a lady in Wexford who had bought it, and she has a child with additional needs. And, because the elephant is an outsider coming into a new place, and that's a huge thing for her. And she just sent me a lovely message saying that the book really resonated with her and with her child. And that was just, so lovely to hear as well. So that's the kind of message of acceptance and tolerance, and that, the world is full of difference, so we need to
Yeah, well,
celebrate
it's
that. And
educating
just,
her child, but it's also educating. It can be another hidden message within your books of other children, how to include the elephant that doesn't quite fit in the farm.
exactly.
Well done, Brendan, and great questions, ladies. You did well, Brendan, in the hot seat there.
Thanks very much.
And at this juncture, I want to introduce Reverend Alec. Alec, thanks for coming on the show this evening. I don't know if you're aware, we had Monsignor John Byrne on a couple of weeks ago, and we were asking him questions of how his parish and his priests are operating during the pandemic. Have you seen huge changes how you operate in the last 11 months?
Yes, it's completely different. And I suppose maybe I'm a technology dinosaur. That's why Shane has helped me out so well.
Yes, tell us about Shane. Shane is on the panel this evening, Shane Reynolds. Tell everyone what he does for you.
Shane is the guy behind the camera who puts it all together, who covers up my mistakes, who cuts and clips it together and makes sure that what comes out the far end is worthwhile watching.
Now, not to put you on the spot, but had the pandemic not happened, would you have gone down the route eventually of streaming your services? Or would you have said, no way?
I think in the way the pandemic has given everybody a kick in the backside to say it's about time we came into the real world and used technology that's there, because we have been kind of just doing things as they've always been done, and perhaps missing people that would have listened to us and who would have engaged with us. So I think in some ways the pandemic has woken us up.
Yeah, because I mean, you have all these resources there for spreading the gospel. So
Yeah.
why not go online?
Well, I agree with you, and I have to confess I was perhaps being not lazy, but maybe not aware of all the things that were there, and how actually when you get down to it, it's not that scary to do at all. It's quite easy to do, and it's possible even for someone of my age. But then, of course, I have listened to some of your podcasts, and I mean, internet is a problem, and some people in my parish, they haven't even got reception for their phone, never mind the internet. So you can use all the technologies you wish, but sometimes they just won't reach people because of the infrastructure out there, and that is a big holdback. So
Yeah, expand more on that, because it's the Portlaoise-Ballyfin union. I mean, of the union, like what percentage is rural compared to urban, Reverend?
I'd say about 50% of it is rural. I mean, Ballyfin and the Rock are rural parishes. Portlaoise, okay, is in the middle of I suppose, a city or a very big town. But once you go out to Ballyfin and the Rock, reception for internet is always a problem. But then, even still, lots of our parishioners are perhaps maybe in their 70s or their 80s or their 90s. So even if they have internet, they might not be maybe au fait with how to use it and how to actually log in and watch what we do. So they would depend upon somebody in their family, perhaps a grandchild or a son or daughter, to help them. So you're fighting all those things.
Now, you touched on your the aging proportion of your congregation.
Yes.
I mean, are you trying to attract younger people in?
All the time. But that's a very hard thing to know exactly what to do and how to do it. It really is. I don't have answers. If anyone has answers or suggestions, I'm always willing to listen. But I can't really answer that question as how we do it properly. I mean, when we were allowed to have connections with people, we had summer camps, we had lots of different camps, and like no problem with teens coming and engaging with us. But it's keeping them. I think when they kind of go past maybe late teens into 30s, they kind of just go away from the church, which myself, I have to confess, I did walk away from the church at that age, but I came back. So I suppose it's about maybe planting the seed, letting it grow, and when someone wants to come back themselves, they will, or they mightn't.
So your life story is basically an example of there's no one way of having a vocation.
Definitely. I was a farmer like Brendan up to about 15 years ago.
Go on, tell me more about the farm.
Well, we had sheep and tillage, a very small farm, but I also worked on a golf course. I was a greenkeeper to kind of make ends meet. And I love farming. It's still in my heart and soul. I mean, if I pass by a field of cattle or sheep, I have to stop and have a look. I love nothing more than to go into a farmer's yard, and if they're milking cows, to stand there and chat away and talk and help if I'm required. So farming, I think, is always in your soul. So my vocation took a long time, and maybe I wasn't willing. Maybe I had to be prompted and, I suppose, made accept it. But I, as I said, I walked away from the church when I was in my teens. I didn't come back until I was in my 30s. I just found it a long journey, a
long winding road.
Yeah. I think once God gets his claws into you, it's hard to escape.
Yeah. And do you think now with religion, basically getting the message out there, I mean, is it harder, obviously, in the modern world with all the distractions and everything that's going on, or conversely, with the pandemic, people's lives have slowed down, and because what everyone's going through, maybe there's, the religion is more attractive now?
Yes, I think people have a lot more time on their hands, a lot more time to think and wonder what life is about. So yes, they definitely looking at, I mean, at our Facebook pages, sometimes like we might reach 2,000 or 3,000 people in a day. Which, I mean, a year ago, I would never have thought of doing that. So the potential is there. But I mean, you can do all of those things and reach people on the internet. But I think sometimes face to face, you can never replace that. I would always think that Facebook or the internet is a great tool. It's part of an arsenal. It isn't the end all or the be all of everything. It's just part of one of those things that we can use. We should have been using long ago.
Yep.
But face to face is where, I suppose, friendships, relationships, that community spirit is built up. And I think also, I mean, you can talk about vocation, you can talk about church, but sometimes it's about action. It's about engaging with people, engaging with the homeless, working with those who have nothing. So you can speak all you want about God, but sometimes you have to put your faith and your beliefs into an action that people can see and want to belong to.
Yeah, absolutely. You're dead right. The face-to-face is, we just can't do without it. And I think the pandemic has brought that home to us.
I mean, yeah, when you see what's missed in people's lives, it's not money, it's not material things, it's friendships, it's handshakes, it's hugs, it's kissing and meeting those family members you haven't met in maybe 6 or 7 months. Just the contact, the touch.
Yeah. And seeing the old faces, the familiar faces. Yeah. Like Clegg's Fate. I don't know, have you been? It's just great fun. No, it's great fun. And hopefully those events and similar events will be back after the pandemic. So you mentioned, okay, technology is a tool, but this is the perfect time to introduce your sidekick. Can I call him your technological sidekick, Shane Reynolds? Come in, Shane.
Hey, how are you?
So Shane, how did you get roped in, or did you volunteer to help out, Alec?
Yeah, well, actually, we had our new local ordained minister, Janet Finlay, and the Reverend Janet Finlay. And I suppose at Christmas, we were coming up with a very traditional service called the 9 Lessons in Carols. So Sarah Foyle, who I've worked on various projects with in the church, she asked me to kind of help out. And I didn't have a clue what I was doing, to be honest. I didn't know anything about copyright. I didn't know anything about most things, but I knew my way around the camera, and I knew it was easy to a certain extent. So yeah, I kind of got roped in there, and then I seen that very much the gospel needs to get out there, and we might be closed our buildings, but we're certainly not closed ourselves. So I said, what a better opportunity, I suppose, to get out there now, get a Facebook page up, get helping Alec with the services, getting the Sunday services out there. So yeah, that's kind of how I kind of got roped in, and eventually, sure, it goes on, and I enjoy it. So it's something, I think when you enjoy something, it's a lot easier to work with. So yeah.
Very good. And the Facebook page is St. Peter's, Portlaoise.
Yeah, that's the username, but you can actually find it under the Portlaoise-Ballyfin Union of Parishes. It's quite a long name, but there you are. The Rock of Delaney's Church, the Holy Trinity, is included, but technically our name is that. So just so everyone's aware, they are included with us.
Very good, very good.
Yeah.
Now you can tell us all. Nobody's watching this. Nobody's listening at all. Do you get on? Do you get on yourself and Reverend Alec? Do you get on well?
Yes, well, I do. I have to say we get on extremely well. I didn't know much about Alec. I knew more about his wife and daughter before I knew much about Alec. So yeah, I think I can't remember. It was probably around Christmas. I was asked because obviously we weren't allowed to sing in church. So we were very lucky, I suppose, in a sense. A reverend up north, they had recorded that we have a church hymn book. So all the hymns and that are recorded and put on. So I had all the hymns on my phone. So I was able to come to the church, and we weren't able to sing, but at least we were able to have pre-recorded hymns and carols and stuff. So yeah, I think that's how we started, really, Alec, wasn't it? Back at Christmas, yeah. So Alec's extremely easy to work with. He's not bossy and anything like that. I know what, I suppose, I kind of have an eye for detail, so I know what's expected about what looks good on the camera. Obviously, yeah. Alec is taking the service, so he can't see what I can see sometimes. And there's certain ways I see that you can totally, you might notice it, but sometimes it grabs people's attention or whatever. It might, it could be simply a stained glass window in the church or a candle lighting, and that could really spark something in someone. So that's kind of what I look for, I suppose. But yes, Alex, very nice to work with, and I for the foreseeable future anyway, I hope we'll be working on close projects together.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. So thanks for that, Shane. Now, ladies, you jump in there now and interrogate Alec and Shane there.
I was just because we were just speaking to Shane there, I'm gonna attack you first with a few questions here.
Yeah.
So Shane, how old were you when you kind of first got involved with the church?
I suppose confirmation age, so around 12, 13. So yeah, I just the local minister at the time, a local priest, asked me to kind of help in maybe youth ministry and kind of stuff like this. At the time, we didn't have we had technology, but we certainly didn't use it. So yeah, I kind of started that way. Started put myself forward for committees in the church, and eventually sat on the church council, which we call the Select Vestry. So I kind of worked my way up, and then for a while I left, and really only at Christmas I came back. Really, I suppose, to a certain extent. I felt that I was being called, and I suppose, to that kind of ministry. There's plenty of different ministries. Obviously what Alec is, he's a full-time minister, and obviously people like ourselves, the laity, it's very important that we have them in church. So yeah, I suppose that's how I kind of got involved and kind of went away and came back, and yeah.
Coming back at Christmas.
Yeah.
And no, I just mean it must have been such a shock because it was pre-COVID you last were working with the church. So, in religion, we have a lot of traditions we stick to going through Mass. There's a lot of traditions and handshaking and peace be with you and all of that, and holy water fonts. And, I was speaking with Monsignor John Byrne a few weeks ago, and I said, churches, they're nearly a petri dish everywhere is when we're in a pandemic. So was it a shock to you when you came back and saw just how different things were?
Yes, extremely. I think now more than ever, it was, things had changed. People were wearing masks. We couldn't handshake. We couldn't hug. We couldn't really speak sometimes. We couldn't share in worship in our usual way of hymns, which is really important to me, especially when I attend church anyway. It's always been a great gift to me to be able to sing and have the hymns, especially the words in them. But yes, it was quite different in that regard. You had to stay away from people. Christmas, obviously the services, Alec and Janet were very busy because we had to book people into different services. So that was a big change, especially for a small community like ourselves. So yeah, there was changes there, all right. And I suppose as time goes on, we just have to come to the norm, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it just reminded me when we had the foot and mouth with the whole, you know, sanitizing the porch of the church and sitting not near people again. And so yeah, I suppose that's it, really. In that
No,
regard.
it's fine. And for you, Shane, and for Alec, in the church, is it fair to say that the priest, there's a life cycle the priest works around? So there's the baptisms, the communions, the confirmations, and, you know, weddings and funerals, right? The whole process has just been completely turned on its head. When do you both see things returning to the way things used to be? Shane, you can go first.
Yeah, well, in the Church of Ireland, we have 2 sacraments, as far as I'm aware. Am I right, Alec?
Yes, Shane, that's...
Yes. So we have 2 sacraments, and the Roman Catholic obviously have 7. So we have, yes, so ours is baptism and is it confirmation? Will I be right?
The Eucharist, the communion.
The Eucharist, which is extremely important, obviously. So it's the Mass and that. So when do I suppose Alec and I, Alec took the service. It was a funeral of a parishioner in our church, and I recorded it. It was extremely sad because there was only, you know, a certain amount in the church ground. We didn't go inside the church. So that was difficult, I suppose. So that's a big change as well. But when do I see things? I don't, if I'm being honest, I don't know if it will go back to what we knew. I definitely don't see that happening. Just there's so much more information out there now about different things, about, you know, people are going to be more conscious about their hygiene. They're going to be washing their hands more. They're going to be kind of not sharing drinks, maybe, stuff like that. So I myself, I don't really know when I can see that happening, because it's so uncertain at the moment. But I suppose I just pray and keep faith that we do be back inside churches and we can gather together to worship, and, you know, thank God for Zooms and stuff like that for now, and thank God for Facebook and free kind of places like that to be able to share with people like yourselves and everyone else. But yeah, I suppose that's unfortunately the reality of it at the moment. But we live in hope, and I hope maybe in the next 2 years we'll be back to some kind of normal that we knew. But it's going to be a new normal, I feel, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And Alec, what would you say? Like, when would you think things would be back to normal?
I would think it would take a long, long time. I think even if we're told we could open our churches tomorrow morning, people will not come back. They're just scared of being so close to other people. And like in our church, we actually share, like during communion, we have bread that everyone gets, but we also share the common cup. So each person will drink from the one cup. I really can't see that ever happening again, or not for a long, long time, because it just does not seem perhaps the most hygienic thing to do for people to see one person drinking, then the next person drinking from the same cup. Even though it's been that way for centuries, I can't see that coming back for a long, long time. But I mean, it's not the end of the world. You know, everything kind of changes, grows, dies, moves on. So maybe it's just time to look at things differently.
And Alec, just before I pass you over to Trudy, a lot of people are being tested by what's happening at the minute. They're finding their faith, and some are losing it. But if you could say one thing to the listeners watching, what would it be?
Well, I would just say it mightn't appear that God is out there or in control. And I mean, you can blame God for this, but I don't think this is God's doing. I mean, I would just say, give God a chance, see what comes from this. I know it's hard to see perhaps that in the middle of all of the uncertainty and the closures and businesses going to the wall, but God is much bigger than ever we can imagine. So perhaps we struggle to see what the end picture will be. But it still doesn't make it any easier for families who have lost loved ones, or families who have witnessed their loved ones die in the hospital on their own, or those things are very hard to answer. But I do feel God is there. We just have to give him a chance. And perhaps, like in most disasters, people do come back to church, to God. It's kind of a place they run to. And I suppose that's one thing about this virus. When you think of all the other kind of disasters like World War I, World War II, people kind of gathered in the communities and they joined together, they prayed together, they spoke together. But this is one thing we're not allowed to do. And I think that makes it extra hard upon people when they can't meet to talk about what worries them, talk about what bothers them. They can't do that. And it's evident at funerals. When you see a funeral perhaps of 8 people, where if it had been a normal time, it could have been maybe 800 people. That's really hard in a family, because I think unless you go, and Irish funerals are fabulous. Irish funerals give people, I think, the best therapy to deal with death. And that's not allowed at the moment. We can't do our Irish funerals the way they're meant to be done. And that's a sad, sad thing to see happening. And I think it's all the little things that we can't do are really going to have ripple effects in years to come. But just believe. I mean, I believe God's in control. At times, I kind of have to believe extra hard, because I kind of wonder if he's in control. Well, he better get his acting gear very, very soon. But I always go back to believing.
Thank you so much, Shane and Alec. I'll pass you over now to Trudy.
Hi guys. For me, thanks for the Facebook page is amazing that we know that, because people can follow that. I would like to know, before the pandemic, and both of you were saying technology has been there, and for all of us in the room, nobody ever used it in as much as we do now, and the possibilities that we can do. And the face-to-face is the main thing, obviously, and that's where you need to get back to. But this is a close second. So I'm wondering, apart from broadcasting services and weddings and funerals and stuff, what else, or what are the plans going forward, regardless of this? Because like you were saying, Alec, to let people know that it's okay and we're here, and to get the message out there, would you do something like, do you remember you used to have, when we were young, a thought for the afternoon, and you might put a bit of a live video on the Facebook where you'd have just Alex giving a prayer that everybody could tune into in the parish. So that's one thought. The second question I would have is, Monsignor Byrne, when he was here a couple of weeks ago, was saying when he put...
Oh, Trudy, are you gone? I think Trudy, see?
Probably relatives of his parishioners. Are you guys getting the same effect?
I think, Trudy, you'll have to ask the last part of that question again, because you kind of froze for a few seconds and I didn't quite catch the last few.
Oh, no.
So I'm sorry.
The broadband strikes
That
again.
would be my broadband problem. It would, sorry.
So go back to...
The last one was Monsignor Byrne was here a couple of weeks ago with us.
Yes.
Again? Now?
The old broadband.
Am I back?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
This is my upgraded broadband. You can hear me now? Okay. Yes. Monsignor Byrne was in a couple of weeks ago, and he said when he put his mass online, he was absolutely shocked and stunned at the reach that it got, that he had more people attending that could have fit in the church. And it was not just that, but it was the reach, the overseas, maybe relatives of his parishioners. Are you guys getting the same?
Well, we're just beginning in Portlaoise to do that. So yes, our figures are growing, and that's the whole thing. I think even like if things went back to normal tomorrow morning, that's one thing we will be doing. We will be having a webcam in the church to allow those people who are living in Australia or America or New Zealand or wherever to still kind of watch in on what's happening, the baptisms, the funerals, the weddings, or a Sunday service or whatever. That's something that we have learned that is so important. That's something that we perhaps should have done years ago. But as I was saying, that this is the kind of the wake-up call that we can reach a lot more people in so many easier ways, and it's a way of keeping, I suppose, our numbers in every country and reaching people we would never ever imagine to.
Absolutely, because it's connection. Although we all admit face-to-face is the ultimate, but it is a connection of sorts. I know in Wicklow Town they have a radio station, and they broadcast services to all the older parishioners, and they tune in the radio, or they have a family member who tuned in the radio, and they've been doing that for about 10 years.
Yes.
But it was radio, not internet. And I think, necessity is the mother of invention.
Definitely.
Really?
Yes. I agree. I mean, I have to confess, maybe as a church we were lazy for a long time, and maybe this was the wake-up call that we finally needed to hear.
I don't think you're alone in saying maybe it's the church we're lazy. That's only because you're looking at it from your point of view. I think society, we're lazy, and lazy is probably not the nice word, but it's just that we've learned, and fear is the strongest emotion in the world, and everyone is afraid of change, afraid of progress, afraid trying something different, and we had no choice this year. Well, last year.
Yep.
So everybody had to do it. And then the next part, are you going to, I don't know if you heard me on this one, are you going to expand what you're doing and maybe use the Facebook to do little 1 or 2 minute videos during the day, a thought, a prayer, for anybody, there's someone here, chats, something like that?
Well, we do put up a thought for the day every day on the Facebook page, but it's not me speaking. Just maybe a little picture with a few words under it, just something to kind of make us think about.
Yeah, because I was just thinking of parishioners on their own.
Yes.
And it's a big time of place, particularly, over 70s, you can't go out at all. It's a face, it's a person, it's something tangible, to just connect to.
Yeah, it's something we have to do, and I mean, it's great to hear you saying those things. That tonight I'm learning maybe more about what I should be doing. We've just begun, so it's lovely to hear what you're saying. And yes, that's a good point. Reaching those people who perhaps are living on their own and maybe in fear of getting COVID. So it would be a friendly face to say a few words, even once a day. That would be something, yes. If Shane, of course, is free to do it, because I have to rely upon some help.
We used to have something like that on the radio or the TV when we were younger. I can't remember what it was. It was something like a thought for the day.
Yes.
It was something, I can't remember. I just remember this minute thing that we had.
I think it was early on in the morning, maybe before the 8 o'clock news.
Yeah, but I think I might be showing age.
I'm not saying anything. I can't ask you your age.
Just to add to that, Trudy, if I can, if you don't mind.
Please.
I have very big plans for the union of parishes. I have to say,
Brilliant.
I have to easily do it. I can't just throw it all on Alec just yet, because I need a structure myself. But there is so much I realise we can do in getting not just the word of God out there, but who we are as a parish, who we are as a community, who we are, what style of worship, we do kind of all that stuff. My summer plan, hopefully, is to have a mini praise. So we're well known for our hymns. So kind of, interviewing parishioners or just, normal lay people of the parish, and other people in the community, of course, and their journey with their faith, maybe, and at the end of it, just break it off with their favorite hymn, hopefully. But yes, there is a lot of things we can do, and there's a lot of things we need to do now, and it's proven that we it's just not, you don't just find God in buildings or whatever. He's all around us, so we can worship him anywhere, and I think that's proven.
Well, isn't that the point? And he always said the word church has never meant a building. The word church is the community, isn't it? And it is how community supports each other. And if that has to change to make it be viable and work going forward, then that's just it. And Alec was saying earlier, don't be blaming God, but maybe the message, I suppose, getting into this is, and you could take this whatever way, or a person listening could take this whatever way. This pandemic has definitely, although we could argue, has brought people apart. It has also brought people closer in terms of community, and to work out what mattered or what matters, and what they need to do to be happy. And it's not anything commercial.
That's
No,
true.
exactly. Yeah.
It has given us a wake-up call to really see what is valuable, what's important, and that's family and friends and
Sure.
loved ones. It isn't material things.
No.
Well said, Alec. Now, the theme, we're going to continue with the theme of adopting technology, because our next speaker in the spotlight, in the hot seat, David Delaney from beyourbestyou.ie. David, can you explain what you're trying to do with Be Your Best You?
I would hope that it's fairly self-explanatory in the title. I suppose that what we're trying to do, and I suppose the concept of Be Your Best You in terms of what we're doing is relatively new. We launched the website last week. I've described it as a little hug for the mind, body, and soul. And I think that's what we all need at the moment. We're talking about technology, for example, and I would actually argue that the more we use technology, the more we actually realize that we need to be able to switch off. And I know I'm working with Paula on a project at the moment, and I actually think some of the work that I'm doing, speaking to people, and I'm actually speaking to people around the world at the moment. Our own podcast series launched yesterday. And we're speaking to people around the world just on their experience, not necessarily in the last 12 months, but just how they cope with anxiety, how they cope with different things. And there's a common thread through all of it. But in relation to technology, I think it's very, very important that we actually learn and we acknowledge and we know how to switch off. It's very, very, we're bordering, a lot of us are actually bordering on it's a dopamine addiction. Even before the pandemic, we've become so addicted to having our phones in our hands. You walk down the street any time during the day, people have something in their hand. They're not paying attention to what's around them. They're not looking up. From a general well-being point of view, being connected all the time is not actually good for you. So certainly dopamine addiction is something that is kicking in. We're actually addicted to that little rush that we get when we get a notification. So it's important that we actually learn for the mind, body, and soul that it's actually, while it's good to be connected, it's also good to disconnect. And when I say disconnect, it's not to be afraid of being alone. It's not to be afraid that you're missing out on something. And the more we allow ourselves to what I call doom scroll, you wake up in the morning, first thing people do is grab their phone and they scroll. And an hour is actually gone and they have achieved absolutely nothing worth. Well, they might have seen what someone's had for breakfast and they might have seen what someone's planned and what someone's favorite song is. Brilliant, life-changing stuff. So what we're doing with Be Your Best You is connecting with people just around, it's mad, it's around the world. We're talking to people through the podcast. We're talking to people, we have an OBE in the UK we interviewed. We have holistic coaches. We have, I've been speaking to people this week in Sweden, Finland, Australia, Canada, Ireland, and the common theme is all the same. We're all heading in the one direction. So what we want to do is just say, it's okay. Just be your best you. And if that means just stepping back for 10 minutes and going, I need a break from all this, know that there's people there beside you. Just say, I'm with you. I'm beside you. I'm silent. And it's about reaching out and connecting in the best way that's healthy for you. And if that's Zoom, great. But if that's getting off Zoom, or if that's making a phone call, and I would love to see people writing a letter. Imagine writing a letter, lads, right? I'm going to say this, all of us here. When is the last time you sat down and wrote a letter, bought a stamp for £1, and actually sat down and wrote a letter that meant something? Okay, you wouldn't write in the letter, guess what I had for dinner? Here's a picture of it. I'm going to slip it into the envelope here. It's about meaningful connection. I think that's what's very, very important in the context of technology, is to have meaningful connections with each other. So that is what we're hoping to do, is just establish what that is. Give a little hug for the mind, body, and soul. And if just learn to be the best version of yourself. That's what we're here for. And if we achieve that, we have it.
Perfect. And speaking of that, looking after the mind, body, and soul, this is the perfect opportunity now to introduce Paula Byrne from Apple Blossom Holistic. Hi, Paula.
Hi guys, it's lovely to be here. So I'm working on this project with David, and my little area is looking after your soul. And that's what Apple Blossom Holistic is all about. And it encompasses everything that you've all been talking about tonight. Really about giving ourselves that space in our lives to just be, to be bored, to come off the technology and just get to know yourself without all those bells and whistles and busyness and tech and interactions, and sit with you and just let things surface, and that's where creativity comes from. Creativity comes from, the mind just running away with itself, being bored and seeing what comes up. Also, that's where, maybe some strong and hard emotions will come up for you. And maybe that's why you've been so busy all the time and you're filling your days with, as David says, doom scrolling and all of this stuff, and let that surface and becoming your own best friend, I suppose. That's what Apple Blossom Holistic is all about. It's been born from this pandemic. It's brand new and currently only an Instagram page and a Facebook page, but I want it to be much more than that. I hope that it will be.
Great. And Paula, you have something big planned for March the 7th. Can you tell all our viewers about that?
Yeah, so Be Your Best You online event in conjunction with David and our friend Alec with Patrick as well. So it's going to be a mind, body and soul online event where you can come to a fun, safe, light-hearted, warm space to relax, learn and reconnect with you, figure out how to deal with all those thoughts, and just tune into yourself and give yourself time to focus on those three things. And I think we've talked about that a lot tonight. The mind with the creativity there with Brendan, and the soul as well with Alec and Shane. They're talking about that too, and tuning back into our bodies. And yes, it will be done over Zoom. So we will be using the technology, but it's for a different reason. It's like this. It's if you ask me, this is a healthy way of connecting. It's a healthy connection.
Thanks, Paula. Now, ladies, have you questions there for David and Paula? I'm sure you have.
Do you know, I nearly feel relaxed after just listening to you speak. I nearly feel like there's a weight after lifting off my shoulders. I'm going, you know what? I've been leaning over a computer most of the day and I just feel like, okay, yeah. How difficult is it running these kind of this business essentially online, like in a pandemic?
You want to answer that, Paula?
Well, personally, I feel it's been easier for me because when you're talking about meditation, mindfulness, downtime, those relaxation activities, it's really nice for people to be doing those from the comfort of their own home. And people have really reached out and wanted those kinds of connections. Is there anything better than getting into your PJs and lying down on your yoga mat with your cozy blanket and knowing that you don't have to get up and get into the car and drive away? Although I do miss, the face-to-face interaction and the in-person connections. It's been a really lovely experience, definitely.
What I found, just to elaborate on that, Paula, is one of the interviews I conducted last week with a lady in the UK, and she was awarded an OBE for services to business. And she actually finds Zoom really difficult because she explains that when she shakes a hand with someone on the first business meeting, she knows what that person is like. by actually shaking their hand. And that's where the nuance, like that's where this gets lost. Is you can actually tell and that's human. It's human nature. It's body contact, and we can tell so much by, you know, the first thing we do to someone we see is cry, and the natural thing that we do is give them a hug. And what's lovely about doing this Zoom call is you can see people's faces. You know, when we're talking here, we haven't actually seen each other. If we had a face-to-face conversation out of necessity in the street, we wouldn't see the reaction and the smiles on people's faces. So there are, like Paula said, there's lots of positive things about doing these things online. But again, it's about doing the right kind of things online that's right for your mind, body, and soul. And how did the two of you kind of cross paths and say together, you know what, let's do this? That's the online or the offline version of that. Well, we'll start with the online version. Yeah, I know. Myself and Paula will actually go back creatively quite a long way. We've worked creatively for many years on ideas, and we've always talked about collaboration. And always. And this particular thing has actually come about a little bit by accident, because I've been working away. I do a lot of business coaching, which is not as busy at the moment, obviously, with businesses, you know, taking different directions. So a lot of my coaching work has gone into personal coaching, and you know, there's actually an element of addiction coaching in there, how to quit things like technology and bad habits and that kind of stuff. So with Paula, it's just a natural what I call synchronicity that just
feels very organic.
Yeah. It's like, hey, Paula, guess what I'm doing today? You know, let's have a chat about this. And Paul's like, yeah, okay. And it just happens, you know, and that's just how it, you know, it's meant to be. You know, and Paula's work with Apple Blossom as well. It just fits right. So for the mind, body, and soul, Ailish, who's collaborating with us on the event as well. You guys probably know Ailish through Yogi Librium in Portlaoise and the Black Hill Woods Yoga Retreat. And it just kind of happened, and yeah, it's synchronicity. Is that the word, Paula? We will use.
Yeah, synchronicity. Yeah,
that's just fantastic.
Feels like the right thing.
Yeah. If I'll ask each of you this question, right? So I'll start with you, Paula. What's one thing you'd like to see come out of this work?
If people can tune into themselves, like really reconnect with what's important to them and become their own best friend. And that might sound really corny, and you know, it might get a few eye rolls, but I don't care. That's what this is for me. That's why I do this. It's because I want people to sit with themselves and get to know themselves, and you know, recognize those horrible anxious feelings and those stressors, as well as lean into the joy and the gratitude and all of that as well. Just be present and more aware. Yeah, that's probably way more than just one thing, but it's a whole umbrella.
That's the perfect answer. And what about you, David?
I think if the one thing that people learned, I think, from the last 12, 18 months is to connect meaningfully and to actually acknowledge, for example, we're so connected. We've never been connected as ever. Like in Victorian times, we learn more, and our brains process more in one day now than they would have probably done for a month in Victorian times. We are just so connected, and it's about processing that. So connect with people, but do it meaningfully. Pick up the phone, and instead of just texting someone, say, hey, how are you? Or message on Facebook, actually pick up the phone and have a chat. You know, if you can, when things get, you know, a little bit better, you know, make a point of connecting physically with that person, and make a plan to do that as much as you can, because we're only here. We all have the same 168 hours a week. You know, if you take 15 minutes out of that, you know, and connect with someone and do it meaningfully, that's what I would love to see out of this work that we're doing.
That's fantastic. And just before I pass you over to Trudy, where is the podcast available?
The podcast is available on Spotify. It's on Apple. So if you search for Be Your Best You, you'll find it on those channels. So the first podcast went live yesterday morning. Our first guest was Paula Byrne from Apple Blossom Holistic. We very kindly came on just in case we had any technical difficulties. They're short podcasts, they're about 20 minutes each. It's just we've spoken to people all around the world, and it's mad, and it's lovely to actually feel that there's a sense of connectivity, that we're all in this together, and just, you know, so just search for it, and you'll find it wherever you get your podcasts.
That's fantastic, and we'll stick in your websites here. So thank you so much, guys. I'll pass you over to Trudy now.
Hey guys, this is really like a drilling tonight, isn't it? First, and I think most important question: mind, body, and soul. Is it a full day? From what time to what time? How can I book it?
Trudy, you always ask
David,
really good questions.
Oh no! Oh, sorry, David. Sorry. You said 7th of March.
7th of March.
7th of March.
Yeah, so it's pre-book, and we're doing an early bird. We're doing an early bird rate on the website. So it's just €49 for the early bird rate for the entire workshop. It is registration 9:45 on the day. So the early bird is available for another couple of weeks. So 9:45 a.m. registration on the day. So we'll have a bit of a chat, get together. So the first session is for the mind, about an hour and 10 minutes. Then we do body and then soul. So that brings us right through to about 1:15, 1:30. So it's delivered on Zoom, the one access number, and there will be breaks in between. It's not heavy going. There's interaction. So we're actually, anyone who registers, we're pre-gauging with people, particularly for the mind work, if there's anything particular that they would like to do. So we're tailoring parts of the workshop for people. So beyourbestyou.ie /events, our Facebook page, and of course it'll be mentioned on the podcast as well. I think that's answered all the necessary parts of that for yourself.
Yeah, it was just logistics for anyone who might want to book, who think it's brilliant and then didn't know what to do or where to go. I think you're definitely right. Everybody is very much connected, but they're not connected to anybody. I mean, even when you look at the teenagers, Snapchat, it's a picture. It's not even words. It's not even saying hello. I love doing this. I've been on Zoom all day, but it's been this kind of a thing. It's just been the way my day has been. But I also find that with my teenagers, and I think when we were young, they said that our focus time was 15 minutes. I think now they're looking at something like 3 seconds. And I can actually say mine maybe go down to 1.5 seconds, truth be told. And I think 2 parts. One, post-pandemic, I would see a market for this, because I see a market, and I'm talking about your online version, for people who can't get out of the house for physical reasons, mental reasons, they're abroad, would love to, maybe I have a sister living in Switzerland and we would love to do this together. So we could do this online, so we're connecting that way. And you know, so post-pandemic, will you continue it online virtually? And would you do something for younger children, for teenagers? Because a lot of them, I'm thinking maybe exam years, you know, to be able to get to, you know, sometimes in particular with girls, to know that you are good enough. And this thing, doom scrolling, I think that only makes, in particular, girls, and maybe it's just boys don't talk as much and should, they feel intimidated, they feel inferior. You know, it's fake book, it's not Facebook, you know. So would you consider doing something for that market?
I absolutely would. If I can jump in there first, I would love to keep online classes and online workshops and retreat days a thing post-pandemic, definitely, because for me during the pandemic, being able to attend things online, and like you've said there, Trudy, one of my best friends is down in Kilkenny, and we were able to go to yoga classes together. You know, we mightn't have been able to see each other, but we knew we were there. And even David, we did a few classes together, and it was great. It just, you really have that sense of community. And what you've said there about doom scrolling, and especially having an impact on teenage girls, yeah, absolutely. Workshops for them to realize their own worth and that they are enough, and to stop this comparison, you know, to be able to stand in their own power and know that they are enough just as they are. That's absolutely something I would consider in the future. So thank you for little seeds of ideas out there.
I don't like that phrase, personally, I don't like the phrase, it's okay not to be okay. I think it's very negative based. I would love to see be your best you, because I think to think of it like a mind map, the things that come off that you are okay, you are good enough, you are your best you are trying your best, and it is enough. Everybody is different. That all branches off of be your best you. I think it's a fabulous concept that you guys have put together, and I think it includes, like, the first thing David said was it includes Alec, it includes Shane, it includes everybody. That knowing that you're, sorry, Brenda, forgot to include you because it does. All the subjects tie in tonight. Everybody is good enough. It's not that it's okay not to be okay. I just feel that's so negative. It's telling everyone you're not okay, and that's okay. I am okay. And I don't care whether you like me or you don't like me, because I am okay. And I am happy with me. And I don't need anyone else beside me to keep telling me that. It's getting to, and I'm specifically thinking when I say these things of teenage girls who are not thinking they're good enough if they don't have a boyfriend on their arm, or the right eyelashes on, or the right, I'm going with the really, superfluous things, because you don't. You need to get to know you first. And when you get to know you, then you will pick up your gang.
Yeah, well absolutely. Said. Well said, Trudy. And being your best you is different every single day. Some days being your best you is getting up and having a shower, and that's it, and that's the be your best you. That's all David's concept. He came up with that. He's the ideas man. So thanks for that as well, David. But absolutely.
But I think it's agreeing just with that, Trudy, like the concept for be your best you, like it's not a business, that's not what we're trying to do, because like we all have our own things. So it was really just a way of, and again, there's a little bit of imposter syndrome in there. I think we all have some of that. Can I be the best? Can I deliver the best service today? Can I do the best Facebook broadcast of that service? Can I be the best writer? We all have that little bit, no matter what we do. So it's really just, something just to say, if, as Paula says, get up, and get up 5 minutes earlier, get up 10 minutes earlier, just do that little one step, 1%. If you improve by 1% every single day, that's a fantastic achievement, and that's all about being your best you. So
well said, David.
Well, until 5 o'clock today, I thought today was Wednesday.
Excellent.
I know, but I lost today. But then I was talking to a friend a few minutes later who thought it was Sunday. She said, "You think you're bad? I lost 4 days." But that's the way the world is, and that's okay.
And I tell you what, I've taken a lot of things out of tonight's show. I now have permission to be lazy. Isn't that right, Paula?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I won't be updating anything tomorrow online. And I've taken away, basically, Brendan, to self-publish. Well done.
Thank you.
Shane and Alec, well done on what you're doing online for your church. And for Paula and David, very, very powerful, very powerful. It's just wonderful. It's uplifting to listen to you all and to realize the incredible talent that's locally. And it's amazing how well spoken and eloquent everyone is, and it's just giving the opportunity, for people to chat about their lives and their businesses. It's powerful. It really is powerful. So, Brendan, I'm going to be taking bets now on who is going to be the next author from our panel. What do you think?
Oh, definitely Alec.
You think so?
Oh, absolutely. There's a book in there. I know it from him.
I think there's a book in all of them, to be honest. There's a book in all of them. Yeah. And Brendan, I see.
Good title would be Your Best You, wouldn't it?
It definitely would, yes.
Copyright.
Trudy,
Oh, there's a lawyer. There's always a lawyer.
I've talked to Brendan about that, about copyright and trademark and stuff. Yeah.
This is it. Yeah, do, and do liaise and do get together after the show. It's just a lot of talent here tonight. It's great to see it. And Brendan, we can't leave this go without saying that you've kind of the farming now has been done by your brother Paul.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And if viewers may not realise, but Paul used to play football for Laois.
He did, yeah. No, he was a cornerback and halfback for Laois in the Micco era. So he was, on and off. Missed the Leinster final because he got sent off against Offaly the previous couple of weeks. But has the Leinster final medal anyway. So we're all very, very proud of him. He was on the minor team in '97. He was cornerback. So we were obviously all in Croke Park that day as well. So he got the football on the farm, and I got the writing.
Well done.
Brendan, can I ask one thing, please, if you don't mind?
Yeah, of course.
Can we get a look at the inside of the book?
Oh, you can, of course, yeah.
Please, that'd be great.
Just to maybe
I can't
give
wait to get it.
I know.
a little bit. So we have just a couple of pages I'll show you. So the page starts off very bright.
Oh, wow.
And we have, there once was an elephant who lived on a farm. But how could that be as far from a farm he was born, you see? And then we bring him into the, so we go into the barn, and he's there in the barn contemplating life, I suppose, and he doesn't know that Olive the owl is looking down on him and seeing, so Olive then flies down to basically see, is he okay? And she asks, is he okay? And basically says, I'm here for you if you want to talk. And she flies off because he doesn't want to talk. So she comes back the next day, and then she brings him out onto the farm, and they go out and have a little look. And if you see the top with the two tractors, the trailer and the big yellow baler, so that was actually seen from our farm last summer. So our farm is a Massey Ferguson farmyard. So we've got red tractors, obviously, and there was a yellow New Holland baler and a red trailer. So it just resonated with me.
The illustrations are amazing.
Yeah, the illustrations are absolutely fantastic. So I'll just bring you to the page where I was talking about Larry the llama, who doesn't do drama. So if you look there at that, so the elephant is basically thinking. So he's equating the llama with the giraffe, and so he says, "Is that a giraffe? He's got a long neck. I'm curious now. I want to go check." And then Olive says to him, "That's not a giraffe. It's Larry the llama, but no need to worry. He doesn't like drama." So that's based on me because I don't do drama. Ha ha. And then he's looking at the cow, and it's that's not a zebra. It's Daisy the cow. She likes to lie down for a nap beside the plough. So we've got little rhyming bits, and then there's a bit of drama at the end.
Again, I go back to, I said it was educational.
Yeah, no, it is, I suppose, educational. And then we have a bit of a farm parliament at the end, where where he's wondering, basically, he tells them all a little bit about himself at the end, and that he feels safe on the farm, and he knows the other animals will keep him safe from harm. So I suppose the message is that, you can fit in anywhere, and it doesn't matter if you're a little bit different people. And somebody said it earlier, you get to that stage in life, I think, where you kind of find your own tribe. And I think, being a teenager, and I know going to college and different things, you're always like, oh God, I fit in. And now I'm at the stage where I turned 40 last Friday, and I actually couldn't care less what anyone thinks of me. So
that happens when you turn 40.
I don't care. So it's all about fitting in, and just generally the message, be nice to other people, because at the end of the day, everything comes full circle.
It looks fabulous. I love the illustrations. I love the meanings behind it. I love the education called not education. I love, for a city person, a bit of farm education. The rhyming is right down the 0 to 6 age. It's fabulous. And, the first thing I look for, we always buy a book for the kids for Christmas. And I have to have a pretty book. And all books that look like that, we have them. And my eldest is 23, and we have the books that look like that from that age because of illustrations, because
Yeah, and I think the very important thing, your cover has to kind of pop on the shelf as well, and it has to stand out a little bit. So we kind of went for those kind of vibrant colors as well to make sure it did stand out and that it's something different, because there's so much. I suppose if you walk into any bookshop now, there's so much noise and so much visually on the shelves. You have to be slightly different. So that even goes with the theme of the book. And just actually to touch upon something you said just slightly earlier, another project I'm working on, Trudy, about female empowerment. So I'm starting the journey on a reference book for young girls on what you can be when you grow up. So we're going to maybe profile up to 100 different career ladies, women in all different kind of genres. So I've started that journey with Irish rugby legend Alison Miller, who is also from Killeen, just down the road from me, and we're going to collab on that. So hopefully we might be back to you guys on the podcast maybe later on in the year when we can pull all that together.
Sounds brilliant.
That's fabulous. That's exactly what, like if I was a child, that's exactly what I'd want to be given as a present. Or I'd walk past the shop and refuse to leave without it. Like that's exactly what girls these days need to read. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So just a reference tool, I suppose, to show young girls what they can be. Because I've three nieces, three of my nieces are 8, 9, and 10. And, the fear that they'll grow up aspiring to be an Instagram model or some sort of influencer is just like, oh God. So no,
that's
so
a very
we said
real fear.
we'll stop and see, can we refocus and, use it as maybe a reference tool for schools to show that, all the different careers that you can be. Because I think, and I know certainly in my circle of friends, lads kind of tend to just say, yeah, well, I can totally do that, even though they mightn't have an aspiration or the level of competence to do it. But lads seem to have a better confidence than girls, I think. Whereas girls are in a lot of ways, might be brighter academically, but lack the self-confidence to actually think, well, I can actually do that.
Well,
I think it comes down to kind of representation in the media. Like girls feel like, oh, I can't be a pilot. Like that's a male-dominated job. That's
have a pilot ready to go and profile.
Brilliant.
Well done.
We like to say the boys have more confidence, but the girls have more substance.
Yes. Well,
just putting it out there, girls.
Well said. So
I like it.
Well done. So yeah, that's really exciting, Brendan. We'll definitely have you back on. We'll have all our panelists back on if we haven't been too scarred by the experience. And we'd love to have Alison Miller on as well. That's going to be exciting. Speaking of empowered ladies, next week our sports podcast will have a lot of representation from Shanahoe Ladies Football Club.
Fantastic.
Yes, because we are going to be making sure that ladies sports will be well represented and well covered.
A fantastic team.
Yes, absolutely. So my thanks to my wonderful co-hosts, to Hannah and to Trudy. Thank you very much.
Anytime.
Thank you. Well, thanks, girls.
And to David and Paula, thank you very much. To Alec and Shane.
Very welcome, and thanks for having us.
And to Brendan, definitely Brendan, next time you come on, you're going to have Alison, because everyone seems to have a sidekick.
Yeah,
This is it. No offense meant. You know what I mean. So you've been wonderful viewers. I hope you enjoyed the show. I did. I mean, really, really uplifting, all of you this evening. Wonderful. So stay tuned. So every Saturday, 9:00, we'll have a podcast here. So thanks for your time. And of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you very much. Thank you. And good night.